There's a petcock over on this side that's blocking a bolt. There. All right, that's all of them. See what we got. Oh, that's not all of them. There's one more. Okay. So there's the oil pickup. Some crusty stuff. Hopefully this tray comes out. It should. Usually they do. Yeah, we'll look at that in a little while. I'll put a wire wheel on the edge and clean it. Let me clean up my hands a little bit and we'll take a closer look. All right. I wonder if that big drain plug on the bottom, there's like a filter screen in there, because it looks like this might have normally attached to that. Okay, you can see your little oil scoop here. There's a hole underneath it on the cap. I'm hoping there's not too much play in these bearings. Got a little side to side, but it seems to be about it. Actually seem really good. Nothing in there really looks bad. All right, so I am going to take the camera and we'll get a closer look. But there's nothing I really have to do inside of that block, I don't think. Not for this anyway. Okay. See if we can turn on the light here. At least I can squirt some oil on that and get it right on the bearing. I'll put some grease on the cam lobes. But there's your oil pickup tube, which is right there. All in all, seems to be in real good shape. See that oil around the cylinder there is probably leaked past the rings. It's probably the stuff I put in the top. And honestly, that's probably what all this shiny oil is too, because this thing was dry when I put a bore scope in it. All right, I'm going to see if I can get that pan open, and we'll go from there. All right, digging a little further here. This is all clumped up oil. Somehow, the petcock that broke off of there was in the oil pan, but I guess somebody shoved it in the hole there. But apparently, this is a strainer of some type. Right now, it's upside down. And took a wire wheel, and it looks like these two pieces of sheet metal are soldered together. I'm not going to deal with that. For this one, what I'm going to do here is I am going to drill this hole, cut this hole bigger. Now it's real important that I leave these intact, because those little oil scoopers, that's where they catch the oil and scoop it up. So these have to be here, so I can't make the hole any bigger than probably about 1.5 to 2 inches, but it should give me enough to work with. But just to show you again, these right here actually hit that spot and scoop up oil What's interesting, this one's got a good angle on it. The rest of them are straight. Wonder what it's supposed to be. Guess it's a majority straight. We'll make them straight. But anyway, so far so good. The oil pan's a little bit of a bummer, but there's a good chance that other piece was supposed to be soldered in. So maybe we can fix that like we're supposed to. I don't know. I'll see what I can do and get back with you. Alright, one more quick update on this oil pan. So I successfully drilled a hole in there. Because I couldn't center it, I bolted this piece of wood down and used that to center. And got out this filter, which I think solders to the bottom. I don't know, we'll see. But this thing would have never had oil pressure. It was like all of this was wrapped around the filter. It is so nasty. But there's tons of this in there I still got to get out. But anyway, I'm not going to show you the dirty side anymore. We'll see it once it's clean. So I decided to do something while I'm waiting on the oil pan. Anyway, so you can see this filter assembly. This needs to be soldered back to the pan. And this filter, screw in, and the pickup tube goes in here. There's a piece missing. But I can fix that easy enough. But the pan is disgusting. I got it soaking right now, and we'll go from there. But while I'm waiting on that, still have a couple hours left tonight, so I wanted to look a little further. I want to pull this cover, take a look at the tappets and the valve springs, and what I'm really interested to see is if I have a stuck valve over here on cylinder number 4. So looks pretty straightforward. It's got 2 bolts, and that should come off. Well, it comes off pretty easy. The gasket's still in good shape. Boy, it is dry in there. Man, let's take a look. Cylinder 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's go ahead and rotate this over while we're looking at cylinder 4. So, yep, I don't think that one's closing all the way. It is moving. Let's see. Filling these others, then take an exhaust look to be coming down the same distance. And this one doesn't look like it's coming down as far. It's kind of interesting. Those tappets definitely rotate nice, so they're probably worn in okay. Tell you what, though, it's interesting how much more adjustment is in this one than this one. Yeah. And the tappet's actually sticking, it looks like. Because right now this one's up, and that tappet's sticking. If that's the case, that's an easy fix. For right now, I'm going to spray it with WD-40 so it penetrates, but I'll lube it up before I put it together. Let me see what I could do. Just get a little helper here. There we go. It is all the way down. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and hit all these while I'm at it. See if I got any compression up there. Yeah, felt like a little bit there. Yeah, got it. Not quite as much as the other ones, but the exhaust valve leaking a little bit because I was on a compression stroke. I saw some stuff blow out of there. Let it slap closed a few times. Well, I think I might have a little bit of a misfire, but it sealed a couple times and then leaked a little bit. I think running it might straighten that up. So I don't think it's too big of a deal there. We're going to go with that. Spider webs and everything else in here. I definitely want to make sure I get that oil filter working so it doesn't pick this stuff up. Keep calling it a filter. I guess it's just a strainer. It doesn't really filter. But anyway, oil strainer. Now I wonder what my options are here. I'm worried if I unbolt that, it would become a disaster. It's already got the edge broke off. Maybe I could just try to loosen that. I might be regretting this very soon. Please don't break. Oh, that wasn't bad. That one need to open in. Alright, how about this side? I wonder if I can get this loose without having to remove the flywheel. Guess we'll see. Alright, here's another step where it could break. And make sure I got all the screws. Oh, there's only 3. Here goes nothing. Or not. I'm a little scared of it. Maybe that piece is broken where somebody tried to get it off and they decided not to. Oops. It's toast. Just broke it. Alright. Putting this piece back on. Putting everything back together. Run it like it is before I worry about that. I knew better. Well, at least it's stuck good. It won't fall off with 2 bolts. Okay, here's what's going to happen. we're going to pretend that never happened. And I'm not going to mess with it. I will actually, I'll probably raise this, put a needle under there, and see if I can squirt any oil in it. And that'll be the extent of it for now. If I go, well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to restore this. But as long as I restore this engine, I'll figure out something. If I can get it off in enough pieces, I can get them back together. Maybe it'll be a cool little project trying to cast a new one. I don't know, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. It's definitely in place and it's not going to move, so we'll go with it. I guess the next step, get the oil pan together and probably pre-lube everything. Put some oil in here, lube everything up, and put the cover back on. And at that point, then I'll get the ignition system together. But not quite as bad as I thought. I was going to open up the timing cover in the front just to take a peek, but everything else internally seems to be in good shape. I'm going to roll with that like it is. And it looks like it receives oil right away, so not a biggie. I did notice while I had it turned over, one of the rod bearings, number 3, had a little bit of play in it that the rest did not. It's got a stack of shims there. I might pull a small shim out each side. Or might not. Well, I'll decide before I put the oil pan on. But anyway, I'm going to put this stuff down for a while. It's Friday night. I'll probably mess with that oil pan and get it cleaned up sometime this weekend, hopefully. But as far as you're concerned, it's going to be moments away. See you then. All right, we're back. It's been about 5 or 6 days. Not even sure where I actually left this video off. I think I was cleaning the oil pan up. Then we looked at some valve springs. Anyway, let me show you around where we're at this point. Got my oil pan cleaned up, and this bung welded, or well, soldered back into place. I made a filter. This had that metal screen on it that was pretty deteriorated and tore apart. I found this in my toolbox. It's been there forever. I think it's a filter out of a clutch master cylinder or something. But I machined a plastic piece to fit down in here, epoxied it in, and slid the filter over it. Drilled a hole. And basically when you screw this plug into here, it will engage the oil pickup like that, and you unscrew it and take it off to clean it. Couple other things here. I went ahead and pre-lubed this engine. So I took my oil bottle here and pressed the tip of it into the lubrication holes on the rods and squeezed it till the oil came out everywhere. So did that on all 4. Put some lube on the cam lobes and sprayed some oil back in there on the underside of the pistons. And I want to come around to this side. Guess I could rotate it here. Rotate it where the light is. I can go ahead and put some oil on these valve stems. And maybe the lifters. Actually, the tappets there I'll do once I flip it over. But this way I can get it on the valve stems easier that way. So I'm going to put this oil pan on. And that'll be the next step. I'll put the oil pan on, then mount it back on its stand. And we'll go from there. This pan will only go in one way. The top bolt's in the center, and this one's offset a little. Alright, where's the impact gun? Oil pan's on. I'll get it mounted back on our little dolly there, and we'll continue from there. The more I think about this, the more I am glad that the oil pan was messed up and I had to take it off. As sludged up and plugged up as all that was, it would have probably tore this thing up trying to run it like that. Alright, so we're going to put this cover back on, but first I want to just put a little more oil on things. This one seems to be closing okay now. Don't know if it's sealing, but it's definitely going all the way down. That's good. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in here. I presume that's lubricating the rear main seal or rear main bearing. Do that same thing to the front. No, that isn't plugged up because I blew air through it the other day. And they free flowed pretty good. Spins a bit easier. Alright. I did not pay attention to which side was up or down, but it probably doesn't matter. The holes look centered, so we'll just go with it. Alright, next up, oil pump. Okay, oil pump is ready. I did clean up this plunger where the cam wore it out. It's a little thinner now, but not too bad. But this thing should work great. Alright, I'm not going to make a gasket for this. I'm just going to use RTV. I just have to be real careful around the suction. Make sure I don't put enough that it would squirt in there and plug it up. If I don't get oil pressure, I'll put a gasket on here, but I think it should be fine. At least for this. Put a nice gob of grease on the end there. Cool thing is I can check oil pressure pretty easy, or oil flow anyway. Loosen up this while it's running. See if we get oil out of it. Still have not figured out how I'm going to get oil into this. I thought I had a syringe and a needle, but I do not. I haven't thought about drilling a small hole here, squirting oil into that. Tell you what, I got an idea. If I can get a hose that fits around that tight, fill that with oil, and should be able to force it down past that. Let's see what I got. Okay. I got this piece on here, but I'm afraid it might be touching and squeezing against the piece that rotates. I really need a bigger hose. This is all I had. I'm going to put oil in here, see if it seeps down. If it does, cool. If it doesn't, I need to get a bigger hose. I don't have anything bigger. I need like 5/8 heater hose or something. But let's see what it does. If this doesn't work, it's going to be messy. I'm going to pull the hose off. Oh, I'm regretting this already. It's going somewhere. Some's got to be going in it because it's definitely not all coming out. That time it did. Too much air. I think I got a good bit in there because I don't have near as much out that as I put in it. Oh yeah, doesn't feel like it rattles around as freely. It feels like there's something in it. Well, it's about 10 o'clock tonight. I'll come back in the morning or tomorrow night or something to mess with it. So yeah, all we got is carburetor, distributor, and set the timing, and throw the starter on there. Should do pretty good. All right, hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. I'm inspired now and close, so I'm sure I'll make time. All right, it is now the next day. RTV is good and dry. I think our next step is going to be install the carburetor. Made this gasket for it earlier this morning. It was mounted this way, but that's not correct. I think it's supposed to be mounted this way. I don't know. I need to be able to get to the throttle. So I'm going to mount it that way. No idea where to set the mixture screw here. Forward on this is idle. And I'm not sure what you would call this, but this changes the spring pressure on this air bypass valve. So maybe that changes the fuel mixture. Yeah, I'm mad at myself for breaking off that throttle arm. Something else to try to fix. Alright, so this thing doesn't run away on me. I wanted to put a spring on there to hold the throttle at idle. I just clipped it on the front. No big deal for this. This is kind of handy, the way the float bowl setup is, because I don't have to put a fuel tank on it. I could just fill the float bowl manually. Hope it doesn't leak out here. We'll see. What's next? Next up, I want to go ahead and put oil in it. So you can't really see it from there. Sort of hidden. Oh, there we go. We can see that now. Oops. There is a petcock there. There's two. Well, it was two. The bottom one's now a plug. But that is your fill level. So you open that up and fill it with oil till it comes out. So let's do that. I'm guessing 3-ish quarts with this one. Just starting to seep out there. So I'll close that valve. Okay, so that's up to the fill plug. But those little reservoirs for the rods, once the oil starts slinging around and fills those, it'll drop the level a little. So I'm just going to add a tad more to make up for that. We are officially full of oil for the first time in probably many decades. Now what? I think I'm going to go ahead and put the starter on it. Well, maybe let's do ignition. So this part back here was missing a bolt, so let me find a bolt for that. All right, let's see. Won't fit on that one. Distributor time. So this was not the original distributor. Apparently there's not many of the originals around. They're pretty chewed up. They're basically made out of pot metal, similar to that gearbox there on the end I almost broke. Well, did break. So I was trying to figure out what this distributor was from, and I looked at a whole lot of pictures because I couldn't quite read it. I can read most of the serial number, but I couldn't read the part number. But after doing some research, I found out it was a Delco 635B from a late 20s Chevrolet 4-cylinder. Matched it up kind of by pictures, and then if I look at this very close, I could see the 6, the 3, and part of the 5, and part of the B. So I verified it with that, but there was some modifications to this to make it work. You see this little shoulder here? Normally that's the diameter is all the way down. Then it has a bracket that bolts around it, or clamps around it, to bolt it to the engine, I believe. I think I saw some pictures with a bracket and some without, so maybe that's not normal in all of them, I'm not sure. But I do know this part was machined down to fit in this engine, and they machined the gear teeth off so it would fit past it. Once I found out what this was, found some parts. So this is from the Brelman company. But I got a point set. And those are for the spark plugs. Condenser. And a cap. It's a little bitty thing. But also a new rotor. I'm trying to find these small clips. I cannot find them anywhere. The only ones I can find are this style for the Delcos. Big difference. So normally it should look something like that. If I bolt these in the same location, it's going to be too tall. I could drill a hole just below that and it would work. I think I am going to probably go ahead and clean this up better than I do doing the rest. It's not too big a deal here, so we'll take this apart. If it comes apart easily, we'll be good to go. If not, maybe it'll fight us, but we'll figure it out. The adjustment cam. Let me go ahead and take the rest of this thing off of here. That top plate that the points bolt to, once I get that off, it'll be easier to pop the stuff off. Then you knock a pin out of there and hope that gear comes off easily. Pin came out pretty easy. The gear, on the other hand, might fight me. Let's see. Oh, it's actually going pretty good. Okay. Let's see. Go ahead and take this grease cup off. It's pretty nasty. Actually, the advanced mechanism I can pop off here. I'm glad the springs are in good shape because that's the only part that's tough to get at the moment. I got to remember there is one thin washer under each one of these. This side it's still stuck. There we go. And that's rough. Definitely have to polish that up. points lobe there. Alright, that's about it. So I'm going to get these parts cleaned up. Get what I need to reuse cleaned up anyway. And then we'll put it back together. And I still haven't decided if I'm going to drill different holes and make those clips work. I'll play that by ear. I'll decide halfway through, I guess. There's something that's interesting. What is that? Oh, that's just a nut laying in the bottom that somebody dropped down there, apparently. Alright, that's it for the teardown on this part. See you when it's clean. Maybe I went a little too overboard to clean up here for a will it run, but went ahead and sandblasted the distributor housing. The only black I had was actually hammer tone, so I used it. Doesn't look too bad. Sort of makes up for the rust pitting, so we'll go with that. Obviously, oops, the shaft and the advance weights and all that cleaned up well. This is a little different story. The cam lobes here were very pitted, and they're still pitted, but I polished these up pretty good. And put it on the lathe with some really fine emery cloth, trying to get the edges rounded without wearing them down. And I think this will do pretty good. Just need to keep it lubed, and especially for this. This is not like it's going in a vehicle and going to be driven every day. If I restore it, it'll run occasionally just to listen to it and see it run. If it doesn't make it past this will it run, this will be about it. So, but anyway, everything's been cleaned up, sandblasted, painted. There's a couple things like where I took off some of the paint because this component has to ground, and even inside of the distributor there I took paint off, so it all should work. Let's get rolling on putting this thing together. Oh, actually there is one thing I forgot. The gear. I took it off, set it to the side, and never touched it. So let me get that cleaned up and I'll be right back. Okay, let's get started with this thing. So I did fix that gear. I machined the gear off of it completely so it looks more correct. Although it was kind of cool looking like what it was, but we'll go with it like this for now. I did do something else, but I messed it up. I had a new tag for it. I have a couple of the extras laying around, but yeah, I used an 8 instead of a 3. I was blind. 685B doesn't exist, but it does have the correct serial number. Here's the original tag. Serial number can be made out and part of the other, but anyway, it'll make it look good. All right, so what's our first step here? I'm going to assemble the shaft. So we've got that part, the weights, couple spacers, and where are the springs? Here are the springs. First step. Grease it up a little bit. Put the cam on there. All right. Now, need these washers. Put a little grease on the underside. Then we install the weights. I want a thin coat of grease all on these so they don't rust. Put a little more there and on the pin. You know what? I think they go first. That makes more sense. Okay. So it rubs on this little ridge right here. Okay. RPMs increase. These weights come out. Advanced timing. Alright. Now we get to slide this whole mess into here. A little bit of grease in there. See if that works. Think so. Mushroom that out a little bit, but that shouldn't hurt it. Looked at my roll pins. I don't have a roll pin that size. Think I'll change that out a little later, but I'm gonna go with it for now. Alright. Okay. Next up, we need to put the points plate in. Get this plate here. So we got 3 holes. See, 1, 2. This will be the third one. Let's get one screw started and we'll go with the rest. There's a whole lot of work for a quick will it run. Guess this is will it run the extended version. Right. Everything clears. That's a plus. Next up, let's go ahead and put the points in. Start off with this. And it has to be pressed onto that part a little bit. Sometimes the socket will work pretty good. Yep. See there how it's fully seated? I'll be back. Alright, this is a tool from the 60s or so that was literally designed for this job. So you turn that, stick the screw here, and it holds it. It's for flathead point screws, and I got this from my uncle many years ago. I've only used it one other time. Then the distributor was in the car. Alright, hopefully the screw's not too long. Nope, definitely too long. It's impacted there. Kind of thought that might be the case. Shorten that up a little bit. Alright, shorten it up a little bit. Hopefully it didn't tear the threads up too bad. Apparently not. Started good. Okay. Now we're good. Okay, put a little bit of grease on there. Maybe a tad in here. Let me get the insulator in here first. Okay. Okay, so there's the points. But the spring is also going to go in there. I'm not sure how that spring sits inside of this. Let's see. Let's go around like that. Just pull the inside of this. There we go. Goes right there. So it hooks in right here. The copper strap goes on the outside. Okay. I think that's there. Let's test it out. Okay, so meter should beep when the points close. Should stop when they're open. If it beeps while they're open, then we got a short somewhere. Which it is doing right now. Bet it's set right there. It's touching. 0 ohms. Yeah, I think it's touching in here. Looks like the only way to avoid that is with a piece of rubber or something. Now, let me loosen this back up, get a little more room there. That's a tight fit. That must just be these aftermarket points, the way they are laid out. This one, yeah, the original, this section is much smaller. It doesn't touch, but that one definitely seems to be an issue. There we go. Pieces in there pretty tight too, so it was touching good. See if this changes anything. Yep. Okay, so if I put this here, this here, I could actually hold all this at once. Okay, so that's weird. Now we're not getting anything. So this is definitely grounded. Getting continuity to here, just not here. Some weird coding on the points. This is very weird, and it's, I don't know, messing around on the line. It seems like this is a common, not this in particular, but just new parts being like this. Not made as good as they used to be. Okay, file of points and it works. Alright, so okay, so as we turn it, right now the points are open. As they close, it'll beep. Open again, close, open again, close. Alright, so I guess that part's working. Next step here, we will put on the condenser. It'll mount right here with a wire that is much too long. I wonder if I put it around the other way. Would the wire routing go a little better? Start this nut and we'll find out. Yeah, I'm going to go that way. Okay. All right. think I am going to put the condenser underneath this. That way the only nut I'll have to loosen will be for the ignition wire to the coil. There we go. So one thing I did do, I talked about, I end up adapting this for this. I'm sorry, adapting this housing for these longer clips. So I relocated it from here to down here. One thing that annoys me, the screws that came with these clips, two different type screws. But, oh well, I guess that's minor. Now we'll get the rotor on there. And the cap. Man, that looks like it belongs. That's a little bitty distributor right there. And there it is. Brand new. Minus the paint all greasy for me. Okay, so a couple things here. On this end, while the engine was apart, or at least while the oil pan was off, I put a scratch mark here to line that key up for top dead center number 1. Now, let me see. Okay, that was compression stroke. I had my finger over the plug. That's compression stroke, top dead center number 1. So, right about there is where we're at. And I don't want this thing kicking back, so I'm going to have it set backed up to where it fires right at top dead center. And we'll play with it after that. But just in case I end up starting it by hand or something, I don't want it kicking back on me. Let's tighten this down where it doesn't turn as easy. I guess I could have got 2 wrenches here, but we'll see. That's good, that makes it stiff. Okay. Okay, here's what I'm doing. Probably won't be able to hear this on the camera, but it's in continuity mode, so I'll hear it beep. But you'll be able to see the resistance change. Right now, points are open. So let's back up a little. Okay, points are closed. We're at 0. As soon as the points open is when the spark happens. So I want to turn this slowly and see where it changes. Right there, which is a little too far after top dead center. So let me move it some. Okay, so now if I'm turning, points are closed. Right at top dead center, they open. It should be bottom dead center on number 1. It opens. Yeah, number 4. It's right at top dead center. Let's put it back on number 1. Need to find a compression stroke. Yeah. All right. Right there's number 1. So number 1 is facing the terminal. Okay, so for this, we're just going to remember number 1's facing the terminal. So, there we go. So this is going to be number 1. And rotates clockwise. So it'll be 1, 3, 4, 2.